Lots happened since the Earth's mightiest heroes took down Thanos. Kang the Conqueror has come and gone, Wakanda lost a king, and whole universes have been destroyed. Maybe it's no surprise then that Avengers Endgame feels so different nowadays. Iron Man's sacrifice during the final battle in Endgame is arguably the most moving scene in the movie. Tony Stark single-handedly saves the entire universe, but his death weighs heavily on pretty much every other Marvel hero that we've met over the years.
Then again, that's the hero gig. Part of the journey is the end.
But while his sacrifice was a pivotal moment in the MCU, some fans wondered if he might have stood a chance at coming back, especially now that time travel and alternate universes have become part of the story. The folks at Marvel clearly understand the importance of Iron Man's sacrifice to the overall narrative of the franchise. Back in December 2023, Kevin Feige told Vanity Fair, "We all worked very hard for many years to get to that, and we would never want to magically undo it in any way." But then, in July 2024, this happened. From what we know about Avengers Doomsday, Feige is still technically keeping his promise, since Downey will be playing Doctor Doom in the new movie. Luckily, it seems unlikely that the MCU will ever rewrite what happened to the Iron Man of Endgame, but Downey's return nevertheless alters the emotional impact of Stark's big sacrifice. Whether it does this for better or for worse will be a matter of personal opinion. Captain America gets the ending he deserves in Avengers Endgame. We don't see the journey Cap takes when he returns the Infinity Stones to their place in the timeline, but we do see where that journey leads him. Having spent years saving the world from one threat or another, he's finally able to reunite with his lost love, Peggy Carter. Endgame closes out on a shot of Cap and Peggy dancing together in Peggy's living room. And some of the details we've learned since 2019 have somehow made the scene even more touching. On the commentary track for Endgame, writer Stephen McFeely points out an often missed detail in the film's final scene: Peggy's front door is open. He says, "I imagine that about 10 minutes ago he knocked on the door, she dropped whatever she was holding." The movie's script gives a few more details. For example, it confirms that the scene takes place in 1949, 2 years after the events of Agent Carter Season 2. Watching the final scene in Endgame now, we know that we're seeing Cap and Peggy at the exact moment they're reunited, having both saved the planet so many times that they've probably lost count. Ain't that sweet? It's practically impossible to make a movie about time travel without getting stuck in a paradox or two.
Great Scott!
Avengers Endgame mixes the quantum realm with the Infinity Stones to craft a convoluted set of rules for traveling through time. The movie explains that time travel doesn't work like Back to the Future, instead establishing a system wherein the removal of each Infinity Stone from the timeline creates a new alternate universe.
Oh, this is heavy.
The post-Endgame MCU has gone all in on the multiverse, of course, yet the rules have never been less clear. In Endgame, the Ancient One ties alternate realities to the Infinity Stones, but in Spider-Man No Way Home, Peter Parker and his friends have a multiversal adventure that's completely disconnected from the stones. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness also explores alternate realities without the Infinity Stones playing any kind of role. The Marvel TV shows haven't helped either. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier fails to address the confusion surrounding Steve Rogers' journey through time, and even today, fans still argue over whether or not he lived out his life in the main MCU timeline. Loki seemed to reconcile the concepts of alternate timelines and the multiverse, but Deadpool and Wolverine confused matters again by adding anchor beings to this already confusing mythos. Truth is, the mechanics of time travel in the MCU are kind of a mess, and once you realize this, you kind of just end up ignoring the few rules Endgame tries to set.
Avengers!
Assemble.
The final battle in Endgame saw basically every hero in the MCU fight Thanos over the fate of the universe. Since then, though, the MCU has introduced a whole new roster of heroes, making it a little hard to watch the Battle of Earth without thinking about who's missing. Some absences make sense, of course. Heroes like Shang-Chi weren't even full-blown heroes at the time of Endgame. But it's harder to swallow the fact that supremely powerful beings like the Eternals were apparently sitting on their hands while Thanos wreaked havoc across the universe. Eternals tried to address this issue by claiming that the Celestials forbade the Eternals from interfering with human affairs, but there are still a few holes in that excuse. For one thing, the Eternals have a mission on Earth that's dependent on the survival of the human population, so it would have been in their interest to stop Thanos from erasing half of all life in the universe. Maybe just try not to think about that when you're watching the Mad Titan throw down with the Scarlet Witch. Not many moments in Avengers Endgame feel like obvious sequel setups, but Thor's final scene definitely has a see-you-next-time vibe. Marvel Comics had introduced the Asgardians of the galaxy in 2018, and Endgame made it seem like the MCU would soon do something similar.
Just so you know, this is my ship still. I'm in charge.
I know, of course you are. Of course.
Watching Endgame now, Thor's last scene with Peter and the Guardians loses some of the oomph it had on release. Thor Love and Thunder only briefly features Star-Lord and his crew palling around with the God of Thunder, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 doesn't even make a passing reference to Thor. Knowing the behind-the-scenes details makes the scene in Endgame even more deflating, as it turns out nobody really wanted Thor and the Guardians together in the first place. Taika Waititi has said that he only ever planned for the Guardians to make a brief appearance in Love and Thunder, and James Gunn has clarified that he never intended to feature Thor in the third Guardians movie. Since Natasha Romanoff had been killed in Avengers Endgame, Black Widow faced an uphill battle from the get-go. The film needed to make its prequel story feel relevant, but it came out feeling a bit like homework instead. We learned more about Natasha's backstory, sure, but the movie didn't offer anything truly revelatory or important for the MCU going forward. Interestingly, there appears to be a pretty great alternate version of a Black Widow movie hidden in the first act of Endgame. We don't know much about what happens during the 5-year time skip, but we do know that Black Widow has basically been running the Avengers.
If I move on, who does this?
In a perfect world, that entire chunk of time could have been explored in a movie released between Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. Black Widow could have still explored that time period even as it moved the timeline forward, telling us more about Hawkeye's Ronin era, and even setting up some new villains for the post-Snap world. Alas, this wasn't to be, and Widow's early scenes in Endgame now seem like a disappointing peek into what might have been. As you're probably well aware, Avengers Endgame is a sprawling story with dozens of characters and multiple timelines to juggle. Considering all this, the movie is surprisingly easy to follow, but fans still brought up a few problems back when it was released. One major plot hole involves Thanos and his trip through time at the end of the movie.
I am inevitable.
This is because Endgame doesn't actually show how Thanos unlocked the secret of time travel. But in an interview with Chinese site QQ, the Russos explained that the Mad Titan had the benefit of some useful assistance. They said, Ebony Maw was a great wizard. Thanos himself was a brilliant genius as well. Those two easily reverse-engineered and mass-produced PIM particles. The Russos also addressed another Endgame plot hole, this time involving Doctor Strange. Some fans had wondered why Strange didn't use a portal to slice Thanos' hand right off, claiming the Infinity Gauntlet in the process. In this case, the Russos pointed out that Thanos is so strong that Strange couldn't be sure a portal would actually cut through his skin. They also pointed out that Doctor Strange had viewed millions of possible futures in Infinity War. Any perceived plot hole related to Thanos can therefore be waved away by Strange's knowledge of the one true path to victory. James Rhodes manages to avoid getting snapped away by Thanos in Avengers Infinity War, and he becomes an indispensable part of the Avengers team in Endgame. Or does he? The Disney Plus series Secret Invasion reveals a massive twist that Rhodey has been a Skrull for quite some time.
Colonel Rhodes? How long have you been in here?
Secret Invasion director Ali Salim later confirmed that Rhodey had apparently been a Skrull ever since he was injured in Captain America: Civil War. He told the Radio Times, "I think it's going to take a librarian to go through and pick apart every Rhodey moment up until Secret Invasion, but there's a lot to be unpacked now." But Salim was wrong. Instead of a librarian, it was an army of MCU superfans who began combing through the data, and they soon ran into a brand new plot hole. Fans found a shot during the final battle of Endgame in which it appears as if Rhodey is bleeding from his head. Rhodey's blood is red in the shot, which either means he wasn't a Skrull during the events of Endgame, or that someone wasn't paying attention when they made Secret Invasion. Maybe it's better to believe that we are seeing the real Rhodey in Endgame, though. If Salim's interpretation is correct, his presence in the movie becomes much less powerful. Black Widow's sacrifice on Vormir is one of the most heartbreaking moments in Endgame. The fact that she and Hawkeye end up being the ones sent to retrieve the Soul Stone seems like a cruel twist of fate. Too cruel, perhaps. Some fans have noticed that Nebula helps plan the trip to Vormir, as she knows that Thanos had taken Gamora there to retrieve the stone. They offer a disturbing theory. Does Nebula send Black Widow and Hawkeye to Vormir on purpose, knowing that only two people who love each other could make the sacrifice to secure the Soul Stone? We all know that Nebula has the capacity to be cold and calculating, but this is the kind of read that really kills sympathy for a character. Luckily, the filmmakers have since stepped in to clear Nebula's name. On the commentary track for Endgame, writer Stephen McFeely clarified that Nebula had no idea about the exchange required for the Soul Stone. Joe Russo added that Nebula believed Thanos killed Gamora because she tried to resist him, saying, "The only one who really knows is Red Skull."
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
Avengers Endgame provided not only a stunning climax to an unprecedented cinematic story, but also a celebration of the movies that had come before it. Understandably, many fans left theaters in tears after saying their farewells to the characters they'd followed for more than a decade, and Endgame was rightly showered with praise on its release. Looking back, though, it seems we may not have appreciated the movie as the ending it should have been. The post-Endgame MCU has featured some of the biggest box office bombs in Marvel history. Movies like Eternals, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania, and the Marvels have struggled to grapple with the world left behind by Endgame, or build much excitement for the future. The MCU is now building toward Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, and some rumors have suggested that the latter movie might pave the way for a soft reboot of the franchise. Considering how perfectly Endgame capped off the MCU up to that point, though, and how uneven things have been ever since, you can't help but wonder if that reset should have occurred when Iron Man snapped his fingers.